Welcome to Stochastic's NFL preseason live before lock. We're calling it live before lock. It's not actually running up until lock. Hopefully, this isn't going to be a 3-hour long show because I got another baseball show after this one. Gajeski, so happy that you're back today. Gajeski's been out the past couple of days. I've had to try to attempt to fill Gajeski's shoes on these NFL preseason live before locks, but honestly, I don't have the experience that Matt has. So his projections obviously very helpful, but it is good to have the man himself back today to do these. Were you on vacation, Gajeski? Are you back home?
No, I'm in Boston. I'm here for the UFC event.
Oh, so you're still on vacation. You're just a man of the people. So you thought not gonna have Neil do 11 game slate. You're back to help us out today. Well, really appreciate having you back here because man, this is a beast of a day of preseason NFL stuff. As we were just going over the slates, we're missing that Bills game on either of the regular slates. That one is just going to be a showdown slate. So I know Matt is adjusting all of his stuff to make sure that that stuff is not included in what we talk about here. But we're going to go over the 2-game slate that starts at noon and then or at 1 o'clock Eastern, followed by we'll do the main slate as well. Any overarching thoughts today, Gajeski?
I don't think so. Same as normal. So if you're new to preseason, focusing on playing time more than anything else, but otherwise pretty normal. We're just trying to decipher everything, read the tea leaves.
I know on the shorter slates, Matt, and we'll be doing a shorter slate first, but then we're doing an 8-gamer. I know that on the slates we've talked about so far, you have not been a proponent of stacking, like you don't think it's necessary. Is that something that on a larger slate, like an 8-game slate, are you going to be trying to stack at all?
Still no. I'm essentially just trying to get the playing time right. A couple of issues with stacking. Really low scoring environment. If you can get it right, that's awesome, but it's very hard to do. And then it's not just predicting, all right, this guy's going to play this much time. It's predicting, is he going to play with the right quarterback, which you can do in some situations. In others, it's a little more difficult. So it's not something I personally force in.
Okay. So not forcing any stacking. And how about on the 8-gamer? How about offensive players versus your defense? Does that change at all when we have 8 games on the slate? Are you more likely to avoid playing your defense against opposing offensive players?
I just make a rule to not have, I believe it's 2. I'll go in and check, but generally speaking, it's not something I worry about too much, just because sometimes having good defensive performances doesn't matter in relation to the opposing offenses. You get a pick 6, that can actually be good for both sides. And preseason's just sloppy in general.
Okay. So you will allow it, some offensive players versus your defense, even on the 8-gamer. Yeah. All right. We got those parts out of the way. By the way, guys, if you have not yet signed up for our preseason package, you absolutely should do so. You're going to have access to Gajeski's projections. Obviously, we'll talk about them throughout the show, but it's very helpful to just have access yourself to the full projections. And then as things change, because things probably will change, we'll get news throughout the day. Players might be ruled out, and that's going to change the projections. So those projections will update as necessary if there are changes throughout the day. You can get it for just $19.95 per week. I put the link into chat already. I pinned it to the top of chat. If you want to check out our preseason package, it's going to be, again, $19.95 per week. You'll have access, or $55.95 for all 4 weeks of the preseason. We're only in week 2, so still probably a good deal if you want to just take it for the entire preseason. It's going to include our DFS projections coming straight from Gajeski, depth charts, and even premium Discord access to Gajeski. So sign up if you haven't already. Highly recommend it. Going to be very helpful for you in this preseason stuff, which is I found very difficult to navigate. Very helpful to have Matt's help there. All right, Gajeski, are you ready to start talking about this early 2-game slate? Jacksonville, Detroit, Miami, and Houston.
Yeah, I'm just getting the last projection run updated, but we can get going. This will take me like 3 seconds.
Okay, perfect. Well, I mean, we're just going to go position by position, and since we're just doing 2 games, I'm just going to let you hand it over to you. So in this early slate with the 2 games, who are your favorite quarterbacks?
All right, just give me 1 sec here. I don't have it pulled up as I update the projections. Finding out this showdown slate was solo, so I had to update some salaries.
Okay, perfect.
Riveting airtime, I know.
Well, I can start reading. I mean, I can tell you that Nathan Rourke is your highest projected quarterback on this early slate, followed by Skylar Thompson, Davis Mills, Mike White. Several. We've got 6 different quarterbacks. This is a 2-game slate. We have 6 quarterbacks projected for between 5 and 6.2 fantasy points. So looking pretty tight with the quarterbacks on this 2-game slate.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. There's only one team that projects for 2 quarterbacks. I have it up now. That's Miami. So Skylar Thompson definitely makes some sense there. That's a guy that runs as well, too. So Skylar, debating him at the top. I like Rourke as well. With Rourke, you just have more playing time for other players, but he's a player that was sort of like isolated in, I don't know, it's not quite a tryout because I don't think he's going to make the team, but he definitely saw elevated playing time compared to the other guys. And he's a guy that can run too. So that does make sense to me. But if you want to be on the safer side, Skylar would make a little more.
Okay, so Rourke and Skylar kind of your top tier options at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Skylar played 33 snaps in the last game with his rushing equity. I think that's going to be pretty good. Rourke, sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place. 41 snaps. Beathard had 27. Lawrence had 13. Expecting the starters for Jacksonville briefly, but nothing crazy. So seems like a pretty defined pecking order. They'll just let Rourke come in for all that mop-up stuff.
Okay. Anything else to say about the quarterback position? I mean, we can go as fast as you want to go through these on this 2-gamer.
Detroit's a little tricky today with Teddy Bridgewater potentially playing. The coach came right out and said that his snaps are going to come at the expense of Adrian Martinez. So that's immediately something that's probably not a situation I want to target. And then Houston, we've got the Stroud stuff. Stroud potentially playing a little bit here as a rookie. You know, like Bryce Young and the other rookies, they're just going to get a little more time compared to some other quarterbacks. And they actually just signed EJ Perry to their roster too. So you could have as many as 4 playing. Keenum missed some practice, so we'll see, but 3 to 4 in that situation. The Texans would be my least interesting for me so far.
Okay, perfect. Insticle, Patrick Janity, yeah, let's go. D. Kevin says, my guy Matt got me paid last weekend. Love to see that, D. Kevin. And yeah, thanks for the reminder, D. Kevin. Please do hit the like button, guys, if you haven't already done so. Kid Kick says there's only 3 weeks in preseason, my guy. I don't know if I said 4 weeks, but okay, noted. So we're in week 2. You might want to just go with the weekly option. I don't know. Just look whatever looks best to you in your budget. Humboldt, yeah, good to see Matt. I agree, man. It's so good to have Matt back here. I can just sit back in the host chair, not have to do all the research, because it would take me a long time to research a slate like this, Matt. I know that you've already put the work in because you did the projections. So
was it fun? Was it fun the last couple days?
It was interesting. Like, I mean, for somebody who's never done NFL preseason, it was like, okay, this is a lot more difficult than doing regular season research, where it's just like, okay, you can just look at the stats that I have found to be relevant in the past and kind of go over those stats. This is a whole different thing, trying to figure out playing time, like read the tea leaves. So definitely appreciate having you here to do that for me today on this slate. Of course, it is still easier for me because you do the projections. So it's like, that's kind of my baseline anyway. I can use the projections as a baseline. You obviously don't have that to fall back on. So a lot of work for you. So yeah, hit the like button for Matt, because he is putting in a lot of work for you guys. All right, let's move on to the running back position on this 2-game slate. We've got Devin Achane, looks like the clear lead back here, followed by Jared Dokes, and then a bit of a gap. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. Basically, McDaniel came out and said that he expects the starters to play at some point, really vague. So I wouldn't expect to see a lot of Mostert or Jeff Wilson. If we see them at all, there's a good chance they just play 0 snaps. Myles Gaskin got hurt in practice, and he played last week. Even with Gaskin active, Achane still had 33 snaps. Now we're taking Gaskin out of the picture. So they're down to 3 backs, Achane, Salvin Ahmed, and Chris Brooks. On this 2-game slate, Achane has the highest projection. It's not particularly close, I guess, in the context of it being preseason. They're all pretty close, but this is wider than normal.
All right. So, I mean, are you... I assume on this 2-game slate, are you still going to always play a running back in your flex?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you can play some of the backup Miami guys too. I guess I shouldn't have just sold that short. Chris Brooks would be the next guy I go to. Ahmed only played 5 snaps. I think that's just because he's a veteran. So Chris Brooks, UDFA out of BYU, would be the other guy I look to here. Achane preference there, but I think you can play 2.
Okay. Eric Traub says, thank you for showing up on your vacation, Matt. Neil did well, but no one is Matt. I appreciate you saying that I did well, but you are absolutely right. No one is Matt. Kid Kick says, Matt is the man, helped me kill week 1. Yeah, I mean, everybody who's using Matt's stuff killed week 1. Matt himself took down a tournament. So hopefully we can run it back today, win some more stuff. All right. So because we are playing at least 3 running backs in all of our lineups, Give me like your top 5 on this 2-game slate.
Yeah, all the other situations are a little murkier, which is going to be great for tournaments. But you've got the 3 backs in Miami. Houston has 5. Detroit has 5. Jacksonville has upwards of 6, depending on how long guys like ETN play. So I'll kind of dive into each backfield briefly, tell you who I would play out of them. For Houston, I think you're going to see Damian Peters play a little bit. He was kind of banged up last week, which increases this rotation to 5 backs. If playing 1, I would look to Jared Dokes. He played 17 snaps. He was a 7th-round pick back in 2021 coming out of Cincinnati, but that's a pretty crowded situation. For Detroit, you're going to see the return of Craig Reynolds and Jamar Jefferson. They both didn't play in their most recent game. I think those are the 2 guys that get the most work here. Jahmyr Gibbs had like a little cameo appearance, 18 snaps. David Montgomery didn't play. There is a true battle for this RB3 role. So once you get behind the Miami guys, I would look to Craig Reynolds and Jamar Jefferson as the next 2 backs. Don't really have a strong projection difference between them. Orfield, I think they literally just split it 50-50. And then with Jacksonville, this is the widest room. Dearness Johnson and Snoop Conner probably play the most snaps here, but don't be surprised if like JaMychal Hasty or Kadri Allison play a bit here too. This is the place I would look to last, but still fine for GPPs with Dearness Johnson and Snoop Conner.
Okay. So can I get a top 5 out of that?
Top 5. A-Chain, Brooks, Reynolds, Jamar, and then
do you want to?
Yes, Dokes.
Okay. Oh, so Dokes is okay. Dokes in that top 5 as well. All right, we can move on to wide receivers. I want to touch on this comment though. Taylor Logan says, "Kind of assumed Matt would look a little more hungover this morning. Pleasantly surprised. You must not know that Matt is a Wisconsin boy, and Wisconsin boys can hold their liquor. So it's the other guys you need to be worried about when Matt goes on vacation. Is that right, Matt? Is everybody else in tough shape today?
I don't know. I haven't seen them. They're sleeping. I've been up for like 4 hours doing the projections though.
All right, good man. All right, moving on to wide receiver. And Matt, this has been trying to fill in for you. Like everything else was like relatively like I kind of understood was wide receivers. I don't know what to do with wide receivers on preseason. And looking at the projections, like I don't know how anybody does. Like they're all so close in terms of projection. Tell me who you like at wide receiver on this 2-gamer.
Yeah, this is going to be a little tricky to evaluate, but I think the place we want to start with is Detroit. They had a bunch of injuries this week in practice, like Jamison Williams. He had a hamstring issue. And then you also saw like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nothing serious, but probably enough where these guys get held out of the game. Trinity Benson, he did return to practice, but that should leave us pretty narrow in terms of who we want to play. I personally like Antoine Green, 7th-round pick out of North Carolina. I believe him, Dylan Drummond, and Chase Cota are going to be the players that see the most playing time on the field here. But Green, he was actually drafted, whereas the other guys are just UDFAs. He's also a deep downfield threat, 4.47 40-yard dash. But I'm starting everything receiver-wise with this Detroit team.
Can you give me your top 5 wide receivers for the slate?
Oh, I'll try. This is kind of weird. You have Jacksonville and Houston both have 12 guys active. That's going to be rough. Miami has 9. Detroit has 6. So, like, honestly, my top 5 would all be Detroit receivers. I would probably play at least 2 here just because of how narrow it is there. To get to the Miami situation, surprisingly, River Craycraft led this team in snaps at 42. I think Eric Ezukama, that is, would have played more, but he was coming off an injury last week. So he's a guy I think that probably plays a little bit more here this week. A guy they actually drafted in last year's draft. So if I had to rank like a 4th and the 5th, it'd probably go Ezukama and Craycraft. But, you know, it's tough when you make me rank a top 5 and there's just a clear path to snaps for Detroit. They're like all 5 of them should probably be Detroit receivers. Okay.
Makes sense. Rant says Stack Marlins late slate worked out well. Seeming got 2 points. Yeah, nice job, Rants. Good to hear that. On Wisconsin, Kid Kick says, love you. Matt, are you there? Are you at the UFC event for anything DFS related, or is this just for fun, just to enjoy the show?
No, I'm with a couple of my buddies that work for Run Pure. We used to work together back in the day, and we try to go to at least 1 or 2 sporting events every year. And this is the first UFC one we've gone to.
Awesome. So not DFS related, just for the fun of it.
Yeah, just fun.
Attending.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Are you going to play any DFS related to it though?
Oh yeah. And I'm not very good at MMA DFS, but we got it while we're here.
Right. I mean, as long as you're watching the fights, like you need something to cheer for. Yeah. Awesome. Tight ends, I won't make you rank them or anything, but tell me, are you any of these tight ends stand out to you?
Tight end is really rough. If you've been playing preseason DFS, you know this, but to kind of break it down, Miami has 4, Detroit and Jacksonville have 5, Houston has 7, up to 7. There's some injury stuff there, but so right away, you probably want to look at Miami first and foremost. Their tight end situation is kind of bleak. Elijah Higgins would be the guy look to first, 22 snaps, but 16 routes. Croft actually played more snaps, but yet Higgins running more routes. Higgins is a former receiver as well. He's kind of built like Mike Gesicki if you were to make like a poor man's comparison to Gesicki. 6'3", 235, ran a 4.54 40-yard dash. He actually fits the mold of like a receiving option at tight end. He would be number 1, but from there, I'm looking at like Croft as number 2 right in the same team. And then I think you can sprinkle guys like James Mitchell for Detroit. He's a former 5th-round pick. And if you want to get really weird, Garrett Prince and Josh Pederson for Jacksonville. I would just be, if you're playing multiple lineups, I would just be trying to spread yourself pretty evenly here, though.
Anything to say about these defenses?
No. If you want to, if you want to break ties, play the guys that are facing the worst quarterback. So on this slate, Miami probably is going to have the worst quarterback room.
Okay, so then that will lead you to the Houston defense. All right, I mean that does it for the early slate. We can move on to the 8-game main slate. I think they're calling it the main slate, which starts at 7:00 Eastern. Yeah, as I said, 8 games to get through. Let's just start with quarterbacks once again. Tell me about some of your favorite quarterbacks.
Yeah, I like this. It makes it easy to talk about. Good, so good. There's a couple guys I think that are going to play more than some other options here. It's not exactly as narrow, but teams like the Rams and the Packers, they sort of use one quarterback more than the others. So I guess to start here, Seattle did this a ton. Geno Smith didn't play. And then we all thought Holton Hilaire was going to get like a half of football, but instead they just gave Drew Lock almost the entire game. Don't see any reason that would change here. And I don't really understand the rationale for it, but regardless, Drew Lock is playing a ton. So he gets the bump as, I guess, the first quarterback to talk about on this slate. From there, Stetson Bennett almost got the same exact treatment. For the Rams notoriously do not play their starters in the preseason. He had 56 snaps. Brett Rippon only played 11. They drafted Stetson Bennett. He's getting the full run out and treatment here as, like the starter in case they actually need to use him this year. And another team that did this was Green Bay. So the Packers, they came right out, gave Jordan Love 12 snaps. He's probably going to see something to that. But Alex Magoo barely saw the field, 7 snaps. All the rest went to Sean Clifford. That was 47. Guy has pretty decent mobility, and he showed that in week 1. He's one of these quarterbacks where you're going to have to ride the highs and the lows, had a couple picks, threw a pick 6, but also had a bunch of really good plays. And they'll trot him out there with some of the good receivers like Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks and like Jaden Reed. These guys played a little bit with Clifford, which is nice to see here. So he'd be the third guy go there. How deep do we want to go, Neil?
I want you to give me your top 5 quarterbacks.
All right, we'll go 2 more. Will Grier for Dallas. I mean, basically everyone in this top 5 got this same treatment where they had more quarterbacks active, but they focused their attention on them. Grier, 55 snaps. Cooper Rush, just 17. Dak Prescott didn't play. We're not expecting starters to play much here either. So Will Grier is another player you can kind of hone in on, just doesn't run as much as some of the other guys like Clifford. And then last one here for me would be Aiden O'Connell. Same exact situation. More of a pocket passer coming out of Purdue, but when you look at the snaps, O'Connell's a guy that it appears Las Vegas might actually think can be their backup. 48 snaps. Chase Garbers just had 12. Didn't see Garoppolo or Hoyer. If we do see them, I would expect it to be briefly.
Okay. Obi-Wan says preseason fever. What's good, fellas? What's good, Obi? And Rant says lock is a lock. Would you agree with that? Is Drew Lock a lock?
I love the comparison here, but yeah, I don't know. No locks in preseason, probably.
No locks. That's probably the right approach. And guys, yeah. So I'm only asking Matt for his top 5. But if you have any questions about any of these quarterbacks, any of the positions we go over, we can answer any questions you have as well. We just on an 8-game slate, we're not going to go game by game. Just want to talk about some of the favorites here. But of course, again, if you have any questions,
I can give a couple more too. Just
sure.
Not going as in depth. The Tennessee situation is really interesting. You're not going to get as much playing time between Levis and Malik Willis, but it's probably around a half, and they both run pretty well. So that's a situation you can look to. Trey Lance, always going to be interesting. Think he continues to get a lot of run out there as they try to figure out what they have in that offense. Those are just a couple other names I'd mention.
D. Kevin wants to know about Clayton Tune. Any interest there?
Yeah, he's kind of just behind. He's actually right behind Davis Mills and Trey Lance. I like Tune. He's going to continue to get a lot of reps at quarterback too. Arizona just has 4 on their roster. So I'll go pull up, see how much playing time I have each of them for. But I think you just run a little risk with Tune compared to some other guys. Yeah, Driscoll didn't play last week, but you have David Blau and Colt McCoy. Tune's going to kind of get that Will Grier, Sean Clifford treatment, but I'm not sure to the same extent. But yeah, I like Tune. I'd put him in the player pool.
Okay, so just a little bit more risk with the playing time, but makes the player pool. Sounds good. Obi-Wan says Laffy looks different today. Yeah, new man here. All right, running backs. Julius Chestnut looks like he's your top running back on this slate, followed by Roschon Johnson. We have several running backs who project better than most of the running backs on the early slate. Again, just tell me about some of your favorites. Let's go for at least 5, but if there are too many that are close, you can talk about as many as you find relevant that you feel like people should play.
All right, Chestnut's great. The Titans, very thin. You're not going to see Derrick Henry, Hassan Haskins, and Jonathan Ward miss practice. Again, I would just recommend putting, Underdog notifications are the easiest way, in my opinion, to see who's playing. And just make sure they're not active, because you now have 3 backs. One of them was signed this week. That's Jock Patrick. Between Tajay Spears and Julius Chestnut, Chestnut had 33 snaps. Spears had 12. Now we're taking 2 other backs out of this room. You should see a lot of work here for Julius Chestnut in this game. Second, Roschon. The Bears are a little thin too at running back. I believe it's Ebner. Sorry, I got to switch between 100 tabs when I do this. Ebner missed practice this week. And then they only have 2 or 3 other backs that are going to compete with Roschon. Travis Homer, 9 snaps. Khalil Herbert, Deontay Foreman, 7 snaps apiece. And the Bears are sitting some starters today. So they didn't specifically say who other than Fields, but I have a feeling you might see like Herbert sit out this game, just a veteran who's played with the team before, which could lead to extra snaps for Roschon. And he was already far and away the most active running back for this team. Once you get beyond that, I think it's a little more dicey. We have players like Israel Abanikanda, Ty Chandler, and Kevin Harris projected well. I think they're all fine. I want to talk about the New England situation because it's very thin. You're not going to see Ramondre. Obviously, Zeke's probably not going to play much, if at all, here. And Pierre Strong missed practice this week. They had to go out and sign CJ Marable. You might legitimately see just Kevin Harris and JJ Taylor touch the ball. Marable could get some cleanup work here, but I think there's upside with Kevin Harris and JJ Taylor, where last week it was a little more cap because Strong was there, but this week I think you've got pretty good upside. Those would be my 5.
Matt, for preseason, do you restrict your player pool at all? Like, are there players that you like take them out of your player pool, uncheck them in Fantasy Crunch or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Just asking because I was going to say, like, if you did do that, it would be easier to just ask you like which running backs are going to make your player pool, but I'm guessing a lot of running backs are going to make your player pool because we have so many running backs who project pretty similarly here. Are there any others who you think are going to be like main components, like you're going to get to greater than 20% in your player pool?
Probably not, but there will be a couple that are close. Tyrion Davis-Price for Frisco, he basically dominated the snaps there. They just have a few more active guys. Sincere McCormick for Vegas, similar situation, had a really good preseason week 1. Those are a couple names I would include there. Zach Evans for the Rams. Otherwise, there's a few players above that are definitely going to be mixed in, like Rice Freeman, Brian Koback, all names I would include. But if you have a question specific to one of them or something, just throw it in chat and we'll get to it.
Okay. The artist formerly known as Brother Phil says, seems to me the back end of Seattle's wide receiver core is unsettled, and maybe they feel Locke will help them evaluate them more effectively, throw them better balls. Could be why he's getting so many snaps. Yeah, could be. And they also may just need to evaluate Locke somewhat as well. Kid Kick asks, Matt, who you got for the and main event? Have you researched the UFC at all yet, Matt?
Yeah, I write an article for it every Monday. It's on the betting side, though, not DFS. I'm definitely on the faves in the main and the co-main, Aljo and Wei Lee.
Okay, going with the favorites. All right, I think we're ready to move on to wide receivers. Again, it's so tough to talk about these wide receivers. So many project similarly here, but do you have any clear favorites here?
Yeah, there's like 3 I really like here, but the situation we should talk about is New England. Like last week, this team is going to have 6 receivers on the field, maybe 5. They just don't play their starters a lot in the preseason. And they're honestly, they don't play like a lot of their veterans and special teamers too. So Matthew Slater, you're not going to see him on the field. That leaves essentially just Demario Douglas, Tyquan Thornton, Kayshon Boutte, Trey Nixon, Raleigh Webb, and Thyrick Pitts. I think you want at least one of these receivers. And honestly, you can probably treat Demario Douglas like a starter at this point. He's running with the ones in camp. He only played 2 snaps in preseason week 1, and Bill Belichick came right out and said, the younger guys get more snaps in the games, the starters get reps in joint practices. So seeing Demario Douglas treated as a starter, really bad sign for Tyquan Thornton, probably, a bad sign for some of these other guys that are battling for a roster. With that said, though, Trey Nixon, 49 snaps, Kayshon Boutte, 32 snaps. Those would be the 2 guys I prefer from this team, but you can also mix in Thyrick Pitts, Raleigh Webb, Tyquan Thornton. Those guys are just fine here too. So New England, I'm trying to play at least one in most of my lineups. The other wide receivers that project really well here are Christian Wilkerson for Vegas. The guy played 50 snaps, and he'll be out there with O'Connell. Pretty easy stacking partner if you want. Jake Bobo for Seattle. Surprisingly, had a really good preseason one, back of the roster guy from UCLA. He'll play a lot today. Seattle has quite a bit of injuries at receivers and players that are banged up. Ronnie Bell for Frisco. Since the Ray McLeod injury, they've been giving him a long look in the slot and, as a backup slot receiver, and then he'll play on like kick returns and stuff for them. Mid-40s in snaps for Ronnie Bell. Those would be my top 3 or 4, and then the New England situation, I think you can run a bunch of guys from that game.
Okay. Any other wide receivers who are going to be primary fixtures in your lineups?
Yeah, a couple more. Demarcus Robinson for the Rams. That situation is narrow, not quite as narrow as New England, but I think him and Lance McCutcheon are going to play quite a bit here. I guess Danny Gray's coming back from injury. We didn't see him in preseason week 1. I expect him to see a lot of snaps. I don't think he's going to be particularly owned. So he's a guy I think you could look to. Otherwise, it's a lot of just those teams that are narrow and then going to the backups. So, for example, New England's a great situation for this. You're going to see a ton of people play like Boutte and Nixon. If you go to like Thyrick Pitts and stuff, they're going to be way less owned. Now, that comes with less certain playing time, but I like taking stands like that for GPPs.
Okay. Again, guys, if you have any questions for us on any of these positions, feel free to ask. But Matt, do you have any other wide receivers that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. Daniel Elordoy asked, boys, got a question for you. We're doing a dynasty, non-superflex, full PPR startup, having a hard time deciding if we should do 3rd round reversal. Wanted to get more opinions on the matter. Matt, as I recall, you are more of just a DFS guy, right? You don't really play the season long stuff as much.
No, what does 3rd round reversal mean?
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering what that meant as well. So I like just snake drafts where it reverse orders every single round. So like, if it's 12, you go 1 through 12, and then the 12th pick then has the 13th pick, and it goes back the other way. I'm trying to think what 3rd round reversal would mean. Like, you just go 1 through 12 and then 1 through 12 again, and then you reverse it, or what exactly do you mean, Daniel? I'm curious to hear what 3rd round reversal means here. Yeah, Tokyo Swan says snake draft is the way to go. Yeah, I just like the classic snake draft. I'm also used to it because I'm drafting in best ball all summer, and that is snake drafts. But yeah, give us more info, Daniel, and we'll be able to better answer that question. Kevin O says, Matt, college football coming, can't wait. Matt, you already responded to that. Yeah, when is the first weekend of college football?
Next weekend, my man. 1 week from today.
I'm sure you can't wait.
No, dude, I'm pumped.
Do you like college football better than preseason NFL?
Yes, college football is my favorite.
Okay. Nice Kevin says, didn't have 3rd round reversal on my bingo card. Yeah, I mean, we're talking preseason NFL DFS. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about it. All right. So we made it through wide receivers. Again, if anybody has questions, let us know. But we can move on to tight ends, we do have one standing out at the top. A little bit of a gap here between Tyler Mabry at a projection of 3.5 fantasy points and Colby Parkinson at 2.9. But tell me about your favorite tight ends here, Matt.
Seattle, definitely the narrowest tight end group today. They only project to have 3 out there. That's fewer than any other team. If you go and look at their week 1 usage, I was wrong about this. I played a lot of Parkinson, but luckily it brought that down. The routes favored Tyler Mabry. He played 32 snaps, 19 routes. Parkinson just 13 snaps, 8 routes. I think that's probably just because Parkinson's making this team. Mabry's likely going to get cut. But regardless, we don't care about that for preseason. We just want to know who's going to be on the field most. And I think Mabry has the safest role today of any tight end. Parkinson, I still think is fine. He's just going to play a little less. But honestly, this is a position where I think you want to spread your ownership as evenly as possible. Maybe a slight bump to guys like Mabry, Parkinson. Other names to mention, Ferkser for New England played quite a bit. Matt Bushman for Kansas City. He was their most active tight end, although they're going to play like 8 of them. And once you go down the list, Matt Sokol for New England, Austin Allen for Green Bay, Elijah Higgins on the early slate. Sorry, these are not separated. But yeah, those are a couple names to mention there. Blake Whitehart for Arizona. Sorry, I missed him. He's a guy that played a ton. Former Wake Forest tight end. If you have a question about any of them specifically, you want to know like their role in snaps and stuff. But my approach for tight ends is to spread this as evenly as possible to the guys at the top of the list.
Okay, perfect. So Matt, I'm assuming you have, because you've been working so hard on the DFS stuff, you probably haven't looked a ton at pick'em props, but I want to see if we can find some on Underdog anyway. I'm going to pull up the Underdog pick'em stuff, look at what they have to offer. And I should note, guys, that if you use our link for Underdog, you're going to get your first deposit matched up to $100. So if you put 25 bucks in, they're going to match 25. You'll then have $50 in your account, be able to enter 2 Best Ball Mania drafts. If you put $100 in, they're going to match $100, and you will have $200 in your account. On top of that, though, the one thing that we can offer here at Stochastic, can't find it anywhere else, you're also going to get access to our fantasy football and best ball package. If you use our link when you sign up for Underdog, it's a $40 value. You're going to have access to Matt's projections, for rankings and projections for best ball CSV format, so you can upload it directly onto the sites. Check it out if you haven't already. Really is a fantastic deal if you use our link. I'll actually throw the link into chat as well. But I see one at the top here, Matt. We have essentially a free square here with Anthony Richardson. So just one more reason to sign up now if you haven't already done so at Underdog, because we have this Anthony Richardson prop. Just 0.5 yards. It's not even passing yards or rushing yards. It is just 0.5 total yards is all you need from Anthony Richardson. Clearly, we're taking the higher on Anthony Richardson yards, but I want to pull up some other props here that we can take a look at. So looking on this early slate, we've got CJ Bettard at 80.5 passing yards, or Nathan Rourke at 116.5. Do either of those stand out to you as bets you would like to make?
Not really, but I actually did go and look at this. My favorite would be Detroit going to chase Coda. Yeah, I try to tweet out some of these take advantage of this. You don't really get free squares a lot. When you do, it's a great way to boost your ROI. So I tweeted out some yesterday with Javon Wims. It went under, which was great, paired with Anthony Richardson. So as long as Richardson doesn't get hurt or something, you should be cashing that one. Yeah. But Chase Coda under 30.5 receiving yards today is one of the biggest projection differences we have. He's going to play similar amount of snaps to, let's see, the depth chart for Detroit, to Drummond and to Antoine Green and to Trinity Benson. So with that being pretty similar here, seeing him projected well above a lot of these guys doesn't make a ton of sense. So 30.5 under would be the call. He's around like 19 yards in the projections.
Okay, love it. So we've got 2 right away. Any others stand out to you? Have you looked at? Have you found several of those that you like, or are you just playing?
I just saw the one.
The Chase Coda. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got pretty 94, 92 passing yards with Skylar Thompson, Mike White. We don't have to go through all of these. Jared Dokes. What do you think of this one? So you have Jared Dokes projected fairly well. They've got him at 23.5 rushing plus receiving yards. Any feeling on that one?
Wow. Seems a little low, but I'll pull it up right now. Dokes, we get some pretty good value on that. You could go over Dokes if you would like.
I would like, because we've got a pretty nice projection on Dokes. It seems like this would be low relative to what I'd expect based on our projection. I'm just scrolling.
Yep.
I'll scroll real quick, see if there's anything. So we can't. I don't know anything about this Buffalo Pittsburgh game since it's not on the main slate. Haven't even looked at it. Kyle Allen, 75.5 passing yards. We don't need to look at those. Just scroll and seeing if any of the others stand out here among guys who have high. Julius Chestnut, 36.5 rushing and receiving yards, obviously a bit higher than Dokes there, but I believe he is our highest projected in terms of DFS. What do you think about 36.5 rushing plus receiving?
We've gotten slightly over. He's at 31.5 rushing for us and about 13 receiving. So a little bit of value to the over there.
Okay.
Pretty close though. The Coda one is the best one, I think.
All right. So I'm probably just making myself less EV by adding picks to this bet here. Just trying to see if there, just in case there are any that others that stand out. Clayton Tune, 118.5 passing yards. That feels a little high.
Let me look. Clayton Tune. We've got him at 84.4.
So that seems really high.
Yeah, that's one you could go under. Generally, I'm trying to find unders, and the ones I really like are receiving because there's a lot of variance in them, and they're only going to get like one or two targets. So that's why the Javon Wims one really piqued my attention. And that's why the Coda one really piques my attention today too, especially at like 30 yards for him is very, very high.
Okay.
But there's not too many on the slate that have like props of 30 or more. It's
okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. So generally you're going to want lower on these guys. Yeah, we don't have any huge lines here. All right. Well, that could do it for this. And I should note that you can also insure your bets on Underdog. Oh no, I have a boosted special here, so I can't do it with this one because I have the Anthony Richardson bet in there. But often you can also insure your bets. Just wanted to show you guys some of the bets that are available here on Underdog on the pick'em side. Of course, you can also play best ball. I love playing best ball on Underdog. You can play the weekly winners format, which is new this year, where they pay out every single week to the highest scores in that format. They also have daily drafts. I've heard that the NFL contests are like really high EV throughout the season. I only started playing, I think, mostly like in the playoffs last year, which I really did enjoy. But tons of great things you can play on Underdog. There is no shortage of opportunities there. I'm gonna go place this bet real quick. $20 to win 400. Yeah, sign me up for that. Okay. We have made it through all of the positions, all the primary positions. Let's see if we have any questions. And Matt, do you have anything you want to say about defenses on this slate?
No, I'm going to be spread pretty even. And again, just if you're only playing one lineup or you really want to dive into the tea leaves here, look for the quarterbacks that are really bad and play the defenses facing them. If you're playing multiple lineups, I would literally just go in Fantasy Cruncher, turn your randomness up.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we project all the defenses for 7 anyway. You shouldn't really need to do that, but I'm spreading even.
Okay. Tommy David Walker says Beathard. It's CJ Beathard is his name. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
Bethard.
Okay.
Bethard.
CJ Bethard. Got it. CJ
Pride of Iowa.
Totally gonna remember it this time. Oh, you're did you go to Iowa or?
I went to Wisconsin.
Okay, I knew that you went to Wisconsin, but for some reason, like I feel like I just associate you with like every Midwestern state outside of Minnesota. Essentially, I'm like, oh yeah, Jesse's there. Okay. We had Tank Dell. Any thoughts on Tank Dell? Cam wants to know.
Yeah, I like Tank Dell. If you're going to the Houston passing attack, I would go to him or Xavier Hutchinson. Just the players they're actually evaluating. They've got a ton of guys there, but they're going to continue seeing what Hutchinson and Dell are going to provide. I think it'll be owned, so just be cognizant of that. But otherwise, yeah, Tank Dell should be the top receiver for Houston.
Okay. Tokyo Swan wants to know any hot takes on Mike Gesicki versus Hunter Henry for regular season best ball.
I prefer Hunter Henry. Gesicki doesn't play tight end. He plays wide receiver, and there's more of a squeeze there than at tight end. Henry's your two-way tight end. I think his snap share is much higher. So that's where I would go. I think the safest take here is Henry.
I've been drafting a lot more Henry than Gesicki as well. I think people they hear, oh, this tight end is more of a wide receiver than a tight end, and like assume that that's a good thing. I think usually it generally is because like a wide receiver, you're going to be more involved in the passing game. You're going to be catching the ball more rather than just blocking. But in a situation like New England, it probably means that Gesicki, as you said, is just going to get squeezed because there are a lot of receivers ahead of him on the depth chart, whereas Henry is just going to be out there as the tight end. So, yeah, I feel the same way going to Hunter Henry. I think we've made it through everything that we needed to talk about on this slate. Do you have any other thoughts on any position on this slate that we didn't talk about already?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well.
Do you want to go over the Showdown slate at all?
Yeah, we could briefly talk about Showdown. We've got some time. Why not?
Yeah, I figure as long as we've got a little bit of time before I have to get to go hang out with my friend Emac on the MLB strategy show. Might as well.
This is good. Hopefully, we can get you out a couple minutes early then, so you get a little break.
True. Yeah, I'll need to switch over. Emac and I can then start on time. But might as well talk about this Showdown slate since we have the time. People might want to know. So we've got
Buffalo, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
It's got a weird start time. That's why people are. I think it's not on the main slate. It's like 5:30 Central Time, 6:30.
That's right. Yep. So it starts just a little bit before the main slate. All right, let's just go over. I mean, we don't even just go position by position because it is positionless. Who are your top options on this slate?
Yeah, you definitely want to play defenses and kickers. Buffalo only has one kicker. Pittsburgh has two. So you're definitely going to be preferring Bass here among the kickers. But generally speaking, for Showdown, your preference should be 1 defense, 2 kicker, 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 5 receivers, 6 tight ends in that order. And defenses immediately stand out just because they play the whole game. Same with kickers if it's narrowed to 1. So there's not much analysis there. If you want to choose between like one of the defenses, look at who's the worst quarterback. You're going to see Josh Allen play here. So I would look more to the Bills defense facing Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Tanner Morgan, and those guys. To get to the quarterbacks, this is tough today. It's the toughest quarterback showdown slate of the year so far because Allen is going to play. That'll siphon off snaps from Kyle Allen and Matt Barkley. Pittsburgh's already using 4 signal callers. If you're going to one of them, I would prefer Rudolph or Morgan. And if you're playing a Buffalo signal caller, I would probably play Barkley, but not as clear-cut as previous showdown slates. For running backs, this is a spot where I think you can be pretty clear. Jordan Mims for the Bills, 29 snaps in the last game. Damian Harris, he returned to practice, but I still don't think you see him. Starters probably get a few more snaps, so Mims maybe not quite 29, but he should still lead this backfield. At running back for the Steelers, you basically saw Anthony McFarland lead the way. I think he'll probably do the same here, 21 snaps in their last game. 4 GPPs at receivers. The players that saw the most time for Pittsburgh, Gunnar Olszewski, 31 snaps, Cody White, 29, Calvin Austin, 27. Austin's the guy they probably look at the most here. Most snaps for the Bills, Keyshawn Johnson at 27, Tyrell Shavers at 26. Would expect something similar in this game. And tight end is a mess. I'm probably not going to play tight end for either team. Okay. Maybe Darnell Washington if forced to pick.
So here's a question. So if Josh Allen is going to play, I mean, maybe he just plays one drive. But so one thing that I noticed yesterday is Daniel Jones literally only played one drive for the Giants. But I was watching, it was like, made it look so easy. It was just like, these are actual NFL receivers, like just dimes to Darren Waller. It was just like, oh, they can just go straight to Darren Waller. And like those two on one drive, Darren Waller had 3 catches for 30 yards, put up 6 fantasy points. And Daniel Jones threw for a touchdown pass. Is there merit to playing like these quarterbacks, the starter who comes in and is probably only going to play one drive? And as Lofty said yesterday, it was like, if Daniel Jones comes in and scores a touchdown right away, he's going to be done for the day because then the coaches, like, they just want to see something out of their guys. That would be enough. But maybe if he didn't on the first drive, maybe he does come out there for a second drive, even just to like make sure that he's, got a well-oiled machine there. Do you think there's merit to playing these, like the veterans who are the starters who are only coming in for like 1 or 2 drives, or is that too thin? Like, is it just a better bet to bet on the guys who are going to be playing longer?
On main slates, I would try to avoid that because of opportunity cost, but this is a showdown and you have just less options. So I'm a little more inclined to do it here, but we've seen it a couple times. Justin Fields nuked the preseason slate last week and he threw like 3 passes or something. Yeah, okay. And Josh Allen, the only thing with Josh Allen is it's probably not going to be running. It'll have to all come through the air.
Okay. So it's something that you can do on maybe shorter slates, but like on an 8-game slate, it's a little bit thin to play the starters who are coming in just briefly.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I'm not playing Mahomes on the main slate.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure. After watching Dimes do it so easily, I'm like, maybe you should just play the guys who are going to easily score, because it's like, man, he does it, and then you get other guys come in for a half and they put up 1 fantasy point because they just can't move the ball. But yeah, I think that makes sense. Instacle wants to know, any thoughts on the Raiders running backs?
I like Sincere McCormick. I would firmly put him in your player pool.
Eyes at Keyshawn Johnson, Hunter Schwartz, Keyshawn Johnson eyes. What does that mean? Is Keyshawn Johnson a player on one of these slates?
Yeah, he's good too. He should be in your player pool as well. He's a good play.
What team is this? Is he related to the Keyshawn Johnson?
No, I believe it's spelled Keesean, Keyshawn Johnson. He's on the Bills, so he'll be on the Showdown slate.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh yeah, I see it now. All right. Obi-Wan says preseason DST and kicker specials. Yeah, I mean on Showdown slates, you got to, and I guess you're just playing a defense on the main slate either way. All right. I think that we have answered all of the questions we have today, Matt. We've got through all of the plays we want to talk about. Anything else that you want to say?
Just thank you for being here. Saturday, preseason all day, man. Couple slates. The rest of the weekend, we got a game tomorrow, game on Monday. So check out all the content for that. But otherwise, thank you.
Yeah, seriously, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Takes a special kind to be interested in preseason NFL DFS, especially if you're watching right now, early in the morning, preseason NFL DFS. Thank you guys so much for joining. And of course, I am in 10 minutes going to be joined by EMAC to talk about the MLB slate. So if you're playing all this stuff today, I'll be doing MLB strategy show with EMAC in 10 minutes. Should be a good time as always. So check that out as well. But thank you guys very much for watching, and good luck today.